Okay, Assalamu alaikum and welcome, dear parents, and I'm sure students as well, to our 2025 Year 10 and VCE Information Night. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people, the original custodians of the land on which we are at the moment, and the first peoples of Epping, where we work, and we pay respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge everything that they have done in the past and in the future. And dear parents and students, I just would like to go over a few points before I hand over to Mr. Seal, who will go through the presentation with you. And it's important that we realize and we understand the senior phase of secondary school, which is 10 to 12, years 10 to 12. Now, this is the business end of schooling. And at this stage, we expect students to be ready for school, committed, prepared for lessons, attending school every day, and really focusing on academics. This is not the time where we start to talk about behavior, we talk about lateness. And lateness to school is a very important point that we're noticing is getting a bit lax. That means coming to school by 8:20 every morning. And parents, this is your responsibility. Your children have to be at school by 8:20 so they can be in their home groups and listen to all the announcements and get ready for their classes. There are a lot of students that come in late, and I know there are roadworks around, there's a lot of traffic, but we got to accommodate for that. We know it's there, so we got to now make sure that we adjust our times for that. Another very important point that we need to look at, dear parents, is absence. In years 10 to 12, we as students have to be in school every day, apart from the days where there's genuine illness where we can't do anything about. But please, all other absences like overseas travel or holidays have to be put on hold or done during the term breaks. We cannot get students leaving during the schooling year, during class time, and going on overseas holidays and trips. I do understand it is cheaper to go off-peak, but your child's education, I think, is more important than that. We've got to focus on the academics, students' responsibility, and the commitment to achieving the best that they can in their VCE years. And with that, I would like to hand you over to Mr. Seal, who will go through the process and procedures of VCE so everybody knows what VCE entails. Mr. Seal?
Thank you, Mr. Vis. Jazakallah khair to all the parents and students in attendance today. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, and I pay my respects and acknowledge the elders of past, present, and emerging. Thank you, dear parents and students. We have come tonight to talk about really important information. As Mr. Vis highlighted, senior years is one of the most important years for a child's journey. So we're going to impart on quite a lot of important information that I'm hoping that you will take home tonight and have a discussion with your child about the importance of their education in the years 10, 11, and 12. With me here, I have Ms. Rahat Arain, our Deputy Principal, Mr. Sufyan Amin, our Assistant Head of Secondary Curriculum and Learning. Mr. Louis Tchaikovsky, our Careers Counsellor, is unfortunately unable to attend tonight. However, I will cover some careers information that is going to be really important to all of you. With us tonight, we also have our heads of learning from English, Maths, Humanities, Science, and Health and PE. There's a lot to cover today, so I'm trying to keep to the time to allow parents to ask questions through our chat, through our Q&A box. So we will try and answer all the questions before the conclusion of the presentation tonight. So as we go through the presentation, if you do have any questions, please write them down in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. So to go through the program for tonight, tonight's program will have a snapshot of last year's VCE results. We'll go through some really important Year 10 and VCE information. I would like to cover some really important academic expectations for Year 10 to 12 students, and I will touch on some careers information for all of you as well. Alhamdulillah, by the will of Allah and the hard work of our students and our teachers in VCE, we've had some wonderful results last year for our cohort of students. Our DUCs for 2024 achieved an ATA of 95.15. Our median ATA was higher than the state. We had achieved a median ATA of 76, alhamdulillah, and our median study score is above the state median of 31 across all of our VCE subjects. So I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of our VCE students as well as the teachers, and we're hoping, inshallah, and praying that, inshallah, we not only continue with the consistently above state medians, but inshallah also achieve greater and better results. So I'd like to begin with covering some important Year 10 information for our current Year 10 students. As you know, our Year 10 students undertake an opportunity to have a selection of a wide variety of Year 10 subjects this year. I'd like to stress the importance of the Year 10 subjects that our Year 10 students are currently doing, as they are a pathway to the VCE subjects. So as students have undergone the subject selection process, it's really important for them to be thinking right now about their VCE choices for next year. It's also important to keep in mind to understand as well and appreciate that some VCE subjects do have minimum entry requirements. And I will go through some updated and revised minimum entry requirements for 2026. That's going to be really important for our current Year 10 students to reflect and ponder about how they are progressing currently and how they can work towards meeting those minimum entry requirements to be able to gain entry into the VCE subjects next year. It's also important, I wanted to emphasize that our current Year 10s, their entry into their current Year 10 subjects was subject to their performance in Year 9 across subjects like maths and sciences. And it does contribute to their entry into VCE as well. We do look at the Year 10 subjects. The Year 10 program consists of compulsory subjects for all students. So all students do English and they do maths, whether it's Year 10 maths or foundation maths. Again, that's dependent on their performance. Quran and Arabic, Islamic studies, humanities, science, life skills, English skills, and sport and co-curricular. In addition to the compulsory subjects for all students, Year 10 students are currently undergoing their first VCE subject. So as you know, students are enrolled currently in biology, which did require a minimum entry requirement. And then we also had vet community services, vet business, and vet sport and recreation. Year 10 students also had choices in terms of the Year 10 subjects. And again, entry into subjects is really dependent on a number of factors that I will cover through briefly as well. Semester 1 subjects for Year 10s have already been decided. Semester 2, I will advise students of when they can reselect their Year 10 subject choices for semester 2. We may add another subject into the semester 2 blocks. So if we do, we will be advised and we will be sending a new subject selection form for Year 10 students currently for to complete their semester 2 electives. Keeping in mind that the Year 10 subjects such as chemistry and physics, they do have minimum entry requirements. Students that are currently enrolled in advanced maths, their enrollment into semester 2 advanced maths is also subject to their performance. So I wanted to also emphasize to our current Year 10 students, your performance in your Year 10 subjects, both compulsory subjects, the VCE subject that you are currently in, as well as your electives, they play a big role in your choices for next year. So although these subject choices that we have here in semester 1 and semester 2, you do get a choice of either your first or second preference. They are equally important and they will count towards your selections for next year. So what I would like to see from all students is to really consider the subjects that you're doing, put in as much effort as you can, and try and achieve the highest possible mark in each subject, as they are all equally important. As I mentioned earlier, the semester 2 electives, we will advise students of when the subject selection forms will be resent to all students. I strongly advise parents and students to be up to date with communications. So we will be sending out emails. And please bear in mind that when a student completes their final form, that is the form that we will actually look at in terms of allocation of subjects. As you know, Year 10 students are currently enrolled in their first VCE subject. For most of you, you may have had experience with your elder children who have undergone VCE. For some of you, this is still quite new. So the VCE is the Victorian Certificate of Education. It's a single certificate that requires students to satisfactorily complete at least 16 units of study. In order to be awarded the VCE, there are specific requirements. And one of those is completing a range of learning activities, coursework, completing a SAC or a SAT, depending on the subject, as well as examinations, in order to satisfactorily achieve an S for each unit. In units 1 and 2, all students complete school-assessed coursework and examination grades, and these contribute to unit credits for the VCE certificate, as well as determining promotion to Year 12. School-assessed coursework and examination grades at the Year 12 level, they are used again to contribute to unit credits and will determine the ATAR at the end of the year. For students who are enrolled in a Unit 1 and 2 subject, we have revised the minimum requirements to be able to continue with certain subjects, particularly maths and science, and I will go through those in the next following slides. To achieve the VCE certificate, just to break down what the 16 units entails, the 16 units entails at least 3 units of English. 2 of these units have to be at the Year 12 level, so units 3 and 4, as well as at least 3 other sequences of Unit 3 and 4 studies other than English. So that means that all other VCE subjects, they are counted towards the successful completion in order to be able to receive the certificate, as well as the calculation of the ATAR. Now, VCE at Siraat, how does that look like? We are spread out our VCE program across 3 years. So our students in Year 10 begin with 1 VCE subject, and then they continue with their VCE journey in Year 11 and Year 12. We have a range of VCE subjects, and we may look at introducing new VCE as well as new VET VCE subjects in 2026. If we are making the decision to include new subjects, these will be updated in the VCE handbook later this year before we undertake subject selections. Each VCE subject consists of 4 units. So if I refer to Units 1 and 2, that's a Year 11 level. Units 3 and 4 is Year 12. So what does a typical student at Siraat look like when completing their VCE? So a typical student will undertake 1 VCE subject in Year 10, then carry that over into Year 11 as a Unit 3 and 4 subject. In addition to that, students will complete 5 other Units 1 and 2 subjects. And when they are in Year 12, they will carry over with the 5 subjects they began in Year 11 and complete that as a Year 12 subject. So in total, Siraat students complete 6 subjects. So an example of this is what a typical student Siraat would complete. For example, they may begin with a Unit 1 and 2 Vet Business in Year 10, then carry that over in Year 11 as a Unit 3 and 4 subject, and complete what the first VCE Year 12 subject in Year 11. In addition to that, they must do English, and this student in particular has undertaken general maths, along with legal studies and psychology with business. In Year 12, then they carry over the English Unit 3 and 4, along with the other remaining subjects they began in Year 11, with a total of 6 subjects. Now, why do we encourage students, or we require students to complete 6 subjects? It allows them to have the 10% increment for the 5th and 6th subject in their ATAR calculation, as well as increasing the credit units that they need for VCE in case things don't work out for certain subjects. As I mentioned earlier, we offer a range of VCE subjects. And I'd advise you all to refer to the handbook to have an overview of each subject that we offer as well. The 2026 handbook will be updated to reflect any new subjects that we offer, but we offer quite a variety of different subjects. And it's really important for our current Year 10 students to be thinking about their VCE subject choices that they possibly may undertake next year. This will help them to be able to have a better understanding of their future career path, as well as thinking of a very strategic way in selecting their subjects. And I'll explain how a strategic selection of subjects from different disciplines or different areas will actually enhance a student's ability to achieve a better ATAR. As I mentioned earlier, some subjects have minimum entry requirements. Our current handbook reflects the 2025 minimum entry requirements for each subject. However, there will be updated changes that is going to be really important for our current Year 10 students and current Year 11 students. The minimum entry requirements for 2026 will be updated for VCE students. I should advise you all that the current students who are enrolled in Units 1 to 4 biology, chemistry, physics, psychology, general maths, and math methods will be required to complete a student and parent agreement. This will be sent to you all via a Google form, and you'll all be required to read the terms and conditions of entering these subjects, as well as understand the requirements and any minimum entry requirements needed for students who are currently in Unit 1 and 2 to be able to continue with that subject in Units 3 and 4. Once this form is available, we will forward this all to parents and students, and they'll be required to complete the form by next week, inshallah. The 2026 VCE Science entry requirements, and this is relevant to our current Year 10s who are wanting to select a VCE Science subject next year. So all students currently in Year 10, they must meet a minimum requirement of 80% in Year 10 Science and achieve a minimum 75% in Year 10 Physics, Chemistry, and Psychology if they wish to choose VCE Physics, Chemistry, or Psychology. In addition to this minimum requirement for current Year 10 students, our current Year 11 students who are enrolled in Units 1 and 2, Physics, Chemistry, and or Psychology must achieve a minimum of 75% in their current subjects in order to be able to continue with that same subject at a Year 12 level. Now, I'd like to emphasize the importance of meeting minimum requirements. The onus is on the students to put in the effort, seek additional support from teachers, complete the coursework on time, and achieve a satisfactory result in their scored assessment, which is their SACs, as well as their semester exams. And these entry requirements will be strictly adhered to ensure that students who are enrolled in a VCE Science subject are able to continue and achieve, inshallah, good results. So I'm asking all parents to be on board with these minimum requirements and encourage your child to work extra hard, particularly our Year 10 students, as the minimum requirements are there to enable students who are dedicated, who are committed, and who are willing to put in the effort into doing the VCE subject. In addition to the updated minimum requirements for VCE sciences for 2026, the 2026 maths entry requirement has also been revised. We offer 3 levels of maths. We have foundation maths, general maths, and maths methods in units 1 and 2, and they both carry over to units 3 and 4. Students currently in Year 10 foundation maths will continue with foundation maths in units 1 to 4, so across Year 11 and Year 12. If a student currently is in Year 10 maths and does not achieve the minimum requirements for general maths, unit 1 and 2, then the only option that they have is to continue with foundation maths. So that's the minimum requirement to be enrolled in foundation maths. General maths, if students currently in Year 10 this year want to progress to general maths, they must achieve a minimum of 60 or above in Year 10 maths. Students who want to do maths methods in 2026, they must achieve a minimum of 70% or above in Year 10 maths and 65% or above in Year 10 advanced maths. Now, we do recognize that some students did not undertake Year 10 advanced maths due to college operational restrictions. For those particular students, they must achieve at least 80% in Year 10 maths to be considered for mathematical methods. One note that I'd like to highlight to parents is that although there are 3 different types of maths, it is not possible for students who are enrolled in foundation maths in Year 10 or in Year 11 to move to general maths. In addition to these updated requirements, I hope this is a bit clear to all students and parents, as it is revised for next year, and it will be made available on our school website with the updated handbook. We will be sending out communication to all parents as well in terms of the revised entry requirements for VCE Maths for 2026 to ensure that they and their child understand the minimum entry requirements for next year. In addition to the VCE subjects, as part of offering a wide variety of subjects for students, we also offer VET subjects as well. So a VET subject is vocational education and training. Students who complete VET subjects complete a part of a nationally recognized qualification that does count towards credit towards satisfactory completing their VCE. Students who choose a VET subject in Year 11 and Year 12, they may receive a Certificate 2 or a Certificate 3 qualification, and it does count towards credits towards their VCE ATAR. It is a great opportunity for students to undertake VET subjects, as it gives them lots of skills that are transferable to the workplace, and it allows students to have more practical, hands-on approach to learning. Alhamdulillah, we offer currently this year 4 VET subjects. We have VET Business, where students over the 2 years, Year 11 and Year 12, they will receive the full Certificate 2 of Workplace Skills and a partial qualification of the Cert 3 in Business. We also offer VET Community Services, where students will receive the full Certificate 2 qualification, as well as VET Sport, which is the Certificate 3 in Sport, Aquatics and Recreation, and lastly, VET IT. We are looking at offering more VET offerings, inshallah, going forward, and I do encourage students to really consider having at least one VCE VET subject in their VCE program to ensure that they have a good spread of subjects and to maximize their opportunities to increase their ATAR. And I'm going to go through a bit later about how having a wide variety of subjects does actually contribute to a better outcome. What are the advantages of completing a VET subject? With a VET subject, as I have mentioned earlier, because it is a more practical, skill-based subject, students do gain real-world skills that are applicable and transferable to real-life situations, whether it's at school they apply these learning or out in placements. Students also attain a nationally recognized qualification that they can use as part of their job application or for further study after they finish year 12. It does suit students who like to learn more by doing than listening, and it also exposes students to a range of soft skills such as interpersonal skills, communication, resilience, and organizational skills. Other than the offerings that we offer in school, we have offered external VET course offerings. So we are, alhamdulillah, we are piloting it this year. We have one student who's enrolled in a certificate in Melbourne Polytechnic. Now, we currently offer students the opportunity to think about what external VET course offerings they may want to do in 2026. These are the certificates that Melbourne Polytechnic can offer students to undertake externally outside of school hours, which is Certificate 2 in Agriculture, Certificate 2 in Horticulture, Certificate 2 in Animal Care, or Certificate 2 in Furniture Making. Students who are undertaking external VET courses will be required to be off school grounds, generally on Wednesdays. However, this might be subject to change depending on Melbourne Polytechnic operational requirements. Students will need to source their own transport to and from the Epping campus. Students who are thinking of doing an external VET course next year need to undertake the responsibility to catch up on any missed work that they have in school, and failure to uphold this commitment will lead to termination of their external VET course contract. So any student who is wishing to apply for an external VET course offering in 2026, you'll need to send me an email with an expression of interest before the 1st of September this year. There is an additional cost that may be incurred by parents because of the increased training and materials requirements, but we can discuss this if you are interested or your child is interested in undertaking an external VET course. Some specific VET subject requirements for all students undertaking a VET subject at school. Completion of IVET tasks. Students are required to complete all additional assessments tasks provided by the registered training organization, which is IVET. In order to be able to receive their nationally recognized qualification, all students must complete their IVET tasks. Failure to complete these tasks within the time frame specified by their teacher will result in further escalation and may actually result in an end result, so a non-satisfactory grade for the unit. In addition to completing the IVET tasks, some specific courses have additional requirements, specifically sport, aquatics and recreation, and community service that do require a placement. When thinking about, and this is specifically for our current Year 10 students, when thinking about subject choices for next year, it's really important to look at subject choices that come from different subject areas or disciplines to maximize a higher ATAR. And I'll show you a couple of examples of how strategic subject choices influences your ATAR. So in this example here, we have an example of a student who's enrolled in English, general maths, chemistry, and maths methods. Now, students often mistakenly think that scaling of subjects heavily influences on the achievement of their ATAR. Subject choices is of utmost importance as it allows the students to maximize their opportunities to increase their ATAR. So in this example here, English, this student achieved a 35 study score. General maths achieved a 40 study score, followed by chemistry and maths methods of 25, which brings the ATAR calculation to 75. Now, this same student, if they were to add a fifth subject, but a subject from, for example, the humanities or business and economics specifically, and if they were to add business management, the difference in the ATAR is significant. And this is why I stress on the importance of thinking about a manageable workload as well as subjects that come from different subject areas. So this same student, in addition to the previous subjects, the scores have not changed, except in this example, they've added business management, which is a little bit more palatable to students and they have a better chance of having a higher study score. So this student achieved a study score of 38. Now, the fifth subject, students will get an increment of 10%. So in this instance, math methods, as it is ranked the last in this student's example, they will receive an increment of 10%. But with an addition of business management, this student has gone from achieving an ATAR of 75 to 81.95. Now let's have a look at what happens if this same student adds a VET subject. Again, we still have English, general maths, business management, chemistry, and methods. However, this student was really strategic with their choices and decided on doing a VET subject, as they know that VET subjects, the calculation of the study score, 70% is from the schoolwork, the coursework that they do, and the exam is only 30%. And in this example, this student achieved a 45 study score for this subject. Just by adding a VET subject, this student has jumped from 81.95 to 90.15. And this highlights the importance of really strategically thinking about your subject choices and how your subject choices can influence your outcomes in terms of your ATAR. When we look at subject preferences, I wanted to touch up on this as some students are not quite sure about how we determine subject preferences. In Year 10 and Year 11 and 12, student preferences and selections is based on a range of factors. The first of which is the minimum entry requirements. As I mentioned earlier, there's going to be revised 2026 entry requirements for maths and sciences. So once they are updated, please refer to the handbook. In addition to minimum entry requirements, we have operational requirements. This might be class sizes and specific subject requirements. For example, woodworks, we can't have more than 15 students. The other point that we look at is students' realistic capabilities and maturity. So we look at, can they handle a really difficult, complex subject like chemistry? Do they have the will and the skill to be able to do that subject? We try as much as possible to give students their first preference. However, unfortunately, due to some restrictions, students who either don't meet the minimum entry requirements or don't get in due to operational requirements, they may be allocated their second or third preferences. In terms of academic expectations, I wanted to highlight some really important information, and I really need the parents and students to be on board with this. Our Year 10, 11, and 12 is really important years, and we have some really firm academic expectations of all students. We expect students to have home study, a minimum of 15 hours spread across the week. Home study can consist of two areas: completing any set work set by teachers, as well as regular revision. Other academic expectations is completing all coursework, as well as SACs and SATs. Using study periods effectively, particularly Year 11 and 12 students who have study periods, they are expected to use these study periods effectively. Check all the Unit 1 to 4 SAC calendar, which is available on Canvas, as well as meeting all college policies in terms of attendance, punctuality, classwork, home study, and uniform. In VCE, it's not just about academics, it's also about attendance. As Mr. Viss mentioned earlier in this presentation, attendance for Year 10, 11, and 12 students is of utmost importance as it does contribute to a satisfactory S for a unit result. All VCE units require 50 hours of class time, and students are expected to be attending classes to be able to demonstrate successful completion of coursework and SACs and SATs. The minimum attendance requirements for all senior students, this does include year 10s, is a minimum of 90%. And I really need parents to be on board with attendance. We are already in week 5, and we have some students who are hovering at less than 50% of attendance. This is of grave concern, as a student who has not been in attendance or has had a substantial breach of attendance, the student is at risk of achieving an N for any given outcomes and the units. As Mr. Viss mentioned earlier as well, strictly no overseas travel or extended leave of absence is permitted. And this is especially for all year 10, 11, and 12 students, because any student who misses out on a SAC while they are overseas, they will automatically be awarded an N for the unit. So I really need parents to be on board and be vigilant with their child's attendance, as any substantial breach of attendance rule, unfortunately, will mean the student will be awarded an N for the entire unit. Whilst we understand the importance of attendance, we do also acknowledge that students from time to time may be sick on a particular day for a SAC. If a student misses a SAC due to a medical condition or an illness, a medical certificate must be provided in order to be able to sit the missed SAC. We are quite strict on medical certificates, so we will not be accepting any backdated telehealth or pharmacist medical certificates. We will only be accepting a GP medical certificate. It's also the student's responsibility to make arrangements with myself and the teacher to arrange resits of a SAC. We also recognize that some students need additional support with special provisions that may be applicable to your child. If your child suffers from a physical or psychological illness, or is adversely affected by factors relating to their personal environment, or may be disadvantaged by a disability or impairment, including learning disabilities, I encourage parents to reach out to me and make an appointment for consideration for special provisions. Special provisions, although it's not an arduous process, it does require documentation. So documentation to support an application for special provisions may include a range of documents such as medical certificate or a detailed medical report or a letter, a psychologist report. It could be other reports from medical practitioners. So if you're not sure about whether your child needs or requires special provisions, please do reach out to me and we can discuss this further. Special provisions does apply to students who have a long history of illness or disability, and it also applies to any emergency situations. So, for example, I've had students who have broken their arm and they are unable to write. So for that, in that case, we can apply for emergency provisions. So some examples of conditions and special provisions that are available. So if your child has a back injury or chronic back pain, anxiety, depression, an ongoing medical condition, if they are vision or hearing impaired, or if they have a hand, wrist, arm, or shoulder injury. So these are just some conditions or examples where students can access special provisions. Now, provisions are designed to allow the student to be able to complete a school-based assessment, so a SAC, as well as an exam, just as everyone else. So these include, and it depends on what the condition is, it may include a rest break, the use of a computer, permission to leave the room, or in some very small circumstances, it might be extra working time, or even permission to do the SAC in a separate room. So if you are not sure about whether your child may require special provisions, please do reach out to me, and it is a confidential process, and we do keep this private for the student. We respect that it might be hard to reach out for help. But do understand these provisions are designed to allow students to be able to do an assessment. It does not alter the assessment, it just allows the student an equal chance to be able to complete the assessment. I will touch up on some information in relation to subject selection for career pathway. It's not too early, especially for our current Year 10 students, to be thinking about post-secondary pathways. So that includes, for example, university courses. Some Year 10 students may opt out and do TAFE or engage in an apprenticeship or a traineeship. If you are in Year 10 and you're thinking about doing an apprenticeship or traineeship, please do reach out to myself as well as Mr. Louis Tchaikovsky, the careers counselor, to discuss further. It's not too late or too early to be talking to your child about pathways. Please do understand that pathways are valid and dependent upon the ability and career direction of each individual student. Some considerations to think about before we move on later in the year about subject selections is keep your options open. You may change your mind about your preferred career. It's more important to have plan B and plan C and think about how you can achieve that. So think about your long-term goals, what career you want to do, which tertiary courses lead to those careers, and then which VCE subjects lead to these tertiary courses. Some advice to consider from now for subject selection later on this year. Choose subjects that you're most likely to succeed in. Choose subjects that you're most likely to enjoy. Look at the prerequisites for the tertiary courses you're interested in. Some specific prerequisite subjects are VCE subjects that you must complete to be eligible for selection for the tertiary course. And lastly, be really realistic about your future career pathway. There are some links available on our website, specifically the Siraat Careers website. I encourage all students to access this website that has very valuable information and provides students with avenues and how to get to where they want to get. The other important resource is VTAC. VTAC always has up-to-date prerequisite information for students to look at what their career options are. But most importantly, if you do have career related questions or you require any careers counseling, please make an appointment with Mr. Louis Tchaikovsky. His office is in the Markaz, as well as there are some university guides that's available in the Teams building upstairs. What we offer at Siraat College for our Year 10 to 12 students, we have very highly experienced and dedicated teachers. Quite a lot of our teachers are also VCE exam assessors. We have also Edrolo. All Year 11 and 12 students have access to Edrolo. It's a wonderful resource. It's your independent home learning tutoring that's available to most of the VCE subjects. For our current Year 10s, Edrolo is only available if you are enrolled in biology, as Edrolo is not available for vet subjects. We also offer after-school support. We also run some holiday classes and also careers counseling. We are looking at a new initiative, inshallah, starting later this year, where we're looking at specific VCE tutoring to be running after school for our VCE students. However, your child's success really relies on how you can help and support your child. The best way that you can help and support your child is to sit down and create a study-friendly home and a study timetable for your child. Encourage your child to work towards specific goals. Although we are at the beginning of the year, it's a really good time to also think about what your term goals are, as well as your semester goals and end-of-year goals. Help them to retain information. So be curious about what they learnt today. Perhaps ask them what they can teach you over the dinner table, what they learnt today from class. Encourage your child to have good, healthy eating habits and have some physical exercise. Make sure your child is getting enough sleep. We know that students in VCE can stay up quite late at night, but it's also really important to encourage them to get adequate sleep. Encourage your child to take responsibility and accountability for their learning. In year 10, 11, and 12, we do encourage students to be more independent and to seek help and advice from their teachers when needed. Provide emotional support. It's going to be a really tough journey over the next 2, 3, or the last year if your child is in year 12. I offer them a lot of emotional support and encouragement. It is going to be quite an intense year, especially for if you are in year 12. Discuss with your child realistic career pathways. This one's really important. We plan A, but sometimes our plan A doesn't work. So encourage your child to think about plan B, C, D, and think about other ways to get to where they want to get. And lastly, I'd encourage all parents to maintain open communication with all subject teachers. Be really up to date with what's happening with your child in terms of their learning and their studies. As we mentioned earlier, Mr. Viss and I mentioned that we can do all what we can for your child at school, but we really need your support to help your child to get to where they want to get. I hope this presentation was as detailed as possible. I'm conscious of time, so we will open it up for Q&A. If you have any questions, please put it in the question Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and inshallah, we'll try and address some questions verbally. Otherwise, we'll address individual questions, inshallah.
There have been quite a few questions already posted and answered. So we'll wait a few more minutes, should there be any other questions. Mrs.
Yeah, I'll address some of the subjects. So applying for vet subjects externally for 2026, you can reach out to me when you can, so to discuss the offerings and what the requirements. But the deadline is in term 3 by the 1st of September that we should have finalized any enrollment or expression of interest. The cutoff, subject selections or subject changes for year 11 students was finalized during transition. Students are well underway with year 11, so it's not feasible for students to move classes or subjects right now. I have received some requests from students, and I've been consistent in my message to them all is that we'll need to continue with your subject for now. If there is scope or room to change or move, then we will relook at that in Unit 2. However, that depends on the availability of the subjects in that same block. So I'll leave that for individual students to come and see me personally to discuss. In terms of the holiday classes, it depends on the subject. So for example, if it's a year 11 biology, then it will be the year 10s who will be required to attend as well. It depends on the subject that your child is enrolled in, but generally speaking, it's more for year 11 and 12 subjects. Now, given that we have Ramadan coming up, we're not sure if we will run holiday classes. If we will, we'll try and endeavor for it to be in the morning as opposed to in the afternoon. The difference between VCE and VCAL, VCAL has had a rebranding. It's currently called VCE VM. We unfortunately don't offer VCAL at school. But if your child is thinking about VCAL, especially if they are in year 10, I'd encourage you to reach out to me as soon as you can so that we can look at alternate arrangements or alternate schools that offer VCAL. VCAL is more practical and hands-on learning. And the key difference is that in VCAL stream or the VM pathway, students graduate with just a completion certificate and not the ATA. So as I mentioned in the presentation, the year 11 and 12 students, by the time they graduate Al Siraat, they would have completed 6 subjects. We do encourage students to complete the 6 because they do take advantage of the 10% increment for your 5th and 6th subjects. In terms of SAC dates, we have all parents should have access to the 2025 VCE Information Canvas page, which includes the SAC calendar. The SAC calendar, the dates have been published from the beginning of the year. So parents and students can actually see the SAC dates for the semester for each subject. For Year 12 students, all coursework and SACs, we finished it at the end of Term 3. In Term 4, we begin week 1 with trial exam periods, which is compulsory for all students to attend. And then we have the second week of Term 4, which is their last revision week with their subject teachers, where they can also get feedback. And then we have the SWAT week from the beginning of week 3. The final week for SWAT that week will be published on the school website for parents to see. Mr. Viss?
How many subjects does the child need to sit in VC minimum? I think you covered that in terms of minimum is 4, but that does not allow for any leeway from the student should anything happen. And it disadvantages the student in that they don't have the offer of any other 2 subjects to add to the ATA.
In addition to that, if they were to only do the minimum 4, if they were to fail 1 unit, they will not be able to get the certificate nor the ATA. So we very strongly discourage students from only doing 4. In very, very unusual circumstances, we would allow, but that's a very case by case. And students should be working towards 5 to 6 subjects, but ideally 6 subjects, because as Mr. Viss said, and I mentioned earlier, 10% from each subject does impact on your ATA. Minimum entry requirements are designed to ensure that students who have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do the subject are the only ones who are gaining entry into the subject.
And we'll not be changing school timings for year 11 and 12. They actually want more time in the classroom. So we won't be changing times for 11 and 12.
And I should also add that year 11 and 12 students have study periods throughout their timetable. So all students in year 11 and 12 have roughly about 7 periods in a fortnight, which is their own study period. So as I mentioned earlier, it's really important that students maximize their study periods effectively.
Okay, I think it's 7:30, and that's about all the questions that have appeared so far. Thank you, parents, students, panelists for coming along. Thank you, Mr. Seal. And with that, yes, let's make 2025 a positive year full of achievements, hard work, and lifelong memories. And may you all have a good night.